Hi there, this is Jacqueline with Nickel and Dime Decor, and we are going to make a baby quilt, and we're not going to have a pattern. You've seen the jelly roll quilts, you know, just the different variations. Well, I did a table runner. I think it was the very first thing I ever made in my life. And if you can see, you see all the different widths. There on this is 2.5 and whatever, and then a solid in between. And that gave me the idea, I'm not going to use a solid in between every other row, but I think I'll do 3 rows and then a solid, and 3 rows and then a solid. And this is for a baby girl, and so I have purples and pinks. Of course, you can use any color combination that you want. And I decided, right or wrong, because a baby quilt should be at least from 36 to 42 to 45. And sometimes square, or, you know, close to square. So, I don't know that I've got it calculated. I had a certain pile of fabrics that I found, and I showed them. I'm going to show them to you. And I started cutting it out. I cut it all out. And now I didn't show you my solid that's going to go in between. And it's a light purple. So in the video that I'm going to show you, I called it Purple Madness Quilt, and then I decided it was Purple Scrap Quilt. But whatever, it's use whatever you have. Use whatever you have, and you will see what I mean by that, because I use a gosh awful bunch of different combinations. So please stay tuned and watch, and we'll get it done, and then I'll have a picture to show you, but I really don't have one to show you. But stay tuned. We can't call it a jelly roll because my rows are going to be 3.5 inches. Because 2.5 is a finished 2, and I would have way too many rows. So I'm gonna cut mine 3.5 inches. So I'm so glad you joined me, and stay tuned for this unknown pattern, and it's gonna be really cute. I can guarantee you, and something anybody can do, beginners included. Thank you. Stay tuned now and watch. Okay guys, this is my inspiration for a baby quilt for a customer, and it's all the fabrics that I could come up with, and I think it's a pretty good mixture. Some of them are just a tad off, but what I'm going to do is a jelly roll quilt, and by that I mean I'm going to cut all of this up into 2.5 inch strips. Just kind of see how much I've got of each one. And then I'm going to subcut 6.5 inches, 5.5 inches, 4.5 inches, and I might go down to 3.5 inches. I want to use up every ounce of fabric, so even if I have to cut a 2.5 inch square. But I did a table runner one time, my very first thing I think I ever made. And I have that pattern. I could go dig it out. I might need to, but you just, first of all, I have to press all of this before I cut it. And after I've pressed it all, then I'm going to cut it into my 2.5 inch strips, and then I'm going to subcut. Then when I do, like all of my 6.5, I will put them in a stack. all of my 5 1/2, I will put them in a stack, my 4 1/2 and 3 1/2, and so on. And then I will know what I have, and I will know if I can do this or not. It's just for a baby quilt, so I think I think I can get it out of this. I really do. Now, the laying of it out is going to be the key to it all, because you want to put a 6 1/2, and then maybe your smaller piece, your 3 1/2, and then maybe a 5 1/2, or maybe your 6 1/2 and end with a 5 1/2 or 4, whatever. It's going to be laying it out until we can get it at least 42 inches, 40 inches at least for a baby quilt. And we'll see how it goes. I don't know what, I saw somebody make a jelly roll quilt kind of like this. Very easy to do. This is just, I'm not copying anybody. Everybody's made a jelly roll quilt. So this is what I've come up with in my fabrics. And I don't know what other patterns say to cut them, but I'm going to cut 6 1/2, 5 1/2, 4 1/2, and 3 1/2. Now, some of them, I might not have enough fabric to cut that much, but I hope I do. So, and then after I've pressed, and then after I have cut, we'll see what we come up with, okay? So let's just call it Purple Madness, okay? That's a good name for this little baby quilt, Purple Madness. All right, thank you. I just wanted to show you all of the bits and pieces that I have. They're not fat quarters, they're just a lady that sews in that organization called Dresses for Girls in Africa. She makes dresses for these precious little girls over there. And she gave me probably 80% of this fabric, and this is what she had left over. And it wasn't enough to make another dress, so she knew I could use it. So see, this is a pretty big piece, doubled over. And I have changed my mind since I talked to you. I'm not gonna do a jelly roll 2 1/2. I'm gonna cut them 3 1/2. And visualize this. If you cut 2 1/2, after you've sewn your strip, it's going to be 2 inches, 1/4 off of each end. Well, that's 2 inches. You're going to have a lot of rows to make a baby quilt. And so I'm going to make it 3 1/2, and they will finish 3 inches. And if I have 14 rows, it will be a 42-inch length, and that's perfect for a baby quilt. So, and I've changed it to Purple Scrap Quilt. I love this piece. It's got a little gold thread through it. Don't have much of it. I don't know what size you'd say. There's some purple with hearts that I had, little piece. Now look at this little strip, but that's 3 1/2 inches wide. And here's another strip. A lot of them are just this size, these strips. Here's another piece. I'm just showing you all of this so you'll know that you can use anything. Just whatever you've got. I really don't like this purple, but I bet I'm going to need it. So I guess I can't be too choosy. and it'll blend in, I hope. I like this little piece, that's pretty. And then this, I really like this. And here is a good sized little piece. And this one. And another strip. And then here's a good piece. Pretty. That's why I did this little pink in the polka dots, because there's a lot of polka dots in here. Some resemblance. Now see, there's little or nothing of this, but we can still get a 3.5 inch strip out of it and subcut it, and maybe a 3.5 inch square, because I want some 3.5 inch squares. This is clothespins, if you can see. I know, I just thought it was cute for a baby. And then this is got some different little polka dots in it. So that's so you can see what you can use anything. And now I will start cutting, like I said. And then I'm gonna go lay it out on the bed. That's the best way I know. When I made that last quilt, I made the zigzag quilt. That was invaluable, laying it out on my bed. So, we're a little step closer. Got it all pressed and ready to be cut. 6.5, 5.5, 4.5, and a 3.5 inch square. That's what I'm going to cut out. Hopefully, out of each color, I will get a 6.5, 5.5, 4.5, and 3.5 square. Hopefully. Okay. That's where we're at so far. Okay, I thought we'd try one little piece here. This is, I'm going to trim over here on the side to even everything up before we get started. Now I want to cut my 3.5 inch. I'm going by my ruler, not my mat, even though I have the mat right also. So I've got really two gauges, my mat and my ruler. And this is right on 3.5. And I'm going to cut a strip. So there's our first 3.5 strip. Let's cut one more. And it's not even on the bottom, as well, you can't see, but it's not even, but we'll fix that. Right now, we're just concerned about our 3.5 inch strips. Okay. Now, remember I said I wanted 6.5, 5.5, 4.5, 3.5, and the 3.5 would be a 3.5 inch square. Okay, I'm going to put this up here where you can see. And that's cut our first 6.5 inch piece. And I am going by my mat, my cutting mat, because my piece is right on that edge. And see, this is a 6.5 inch ruler. So all I really have to do is put it right on the edge. And there I've got two things to go by. I know it's right there on the edge of my ruler. I know it's right there on my 6.5 inch line. So we know we are good on this 6.5 inch piece. Now, let's move it over and try to put it up on a line right across here. That just helps you too. That's another tool. Now 5 1/2. 5 1/2. All right. Now 4 1/2. And of course you know how to do this, but I'm just showing you in case you have, you know, sometimes we just have a hard time with our cutting. 4 1/2. Now let's see if I can get a 3 1/2 inch square. See if this is wide enough. Yep. Look, out of that one little strip, I got all of my cuts. There they are. Now, I'll do the next strip. And like I said, I don't know how many I need of everything. So, I'm just cutting it all up. And I know that I can use it. Now, I'm going to start me a stack. My 6 1/2, 5 1/2, and 4 1/2 in my squares. And I'm going to start a stack. And see, this is very crooked. So I'm going to move it over. Well, let's just go this way. I'm going to put this and cut the selvage off. And I know by looking at it that we can get the same amount, the 4 pieces that we just did. And then I have all of this left. After I cut this strip, I will get 4 more pieces. Then I have another strip that's 3 1/2 inches wide, and I'm going to cut that. So let's move this over, and I'll bring it back in a minute. Move our strip. And let's do one more. There's one more, and you know, I possibly could get even another piece. And just look at how much I really got out of this little piece. It's amazing, isn't it? All right, I am going at the moment and leave this. I'm going to leave that little piece. I will probably, you know, I can use it on the back. I can use it wherever. So now I have 2 more strips, and we know that we're going to get another set of these pieces. So here's another strip. So out of that little scrap, which could have been, well, I should have measured it maybe. But anyway, out of that scrap, there is 4 pieces. 4 pieces is 12 more pieces. I got 16. I'm going to get 16 pieces. 4 6 1/2, 4 5 1/2, 4 3 4.5 and 4 3.5-inch squares. So that's a lot, and I'm very happy I got all of that. So that's just a little short lesson on cutting to get the most out of that piece. That's all I left is that little piece. And when you're cutting, try to get even amounts. Like I've got 4 of each one. That way they're evenly distributed throughout the quilt. That might not matter to some people, but it's just something I like to do. All right, we shall carry on. Thank you for watching. Okay, here's my stack. Everything is cut. 6.5, 5.5, 4.5, 3.5 square. And they're all times 3.5 inches. 6.5 by 3.5, 5.5 by 3.5, 4.5 by 3.5, and 3.5 square. This is all I had left over, my little scraps. So, you've got to come back next week and see the layout and see how we're going to do our purple scrap quilt. Thank you for watching. God bless.